Josh.
How the fuck are you, man?
I'm very well. Trying not to be too loud as you've...
That technique. Oh, man, it's really good to see you, man. 3 years.
Wow. Yeah.
Yeah, it would have been maybe like the stunt course, maybe.
Yes.
What's his name? Richard Norton, is that?
Richard Norton, yeah. He worked on...
I feel like I'm going to fuck his name up.
Oh, God. What was the film? It was a massive...
Suicide Squad.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But the stunts were awesome. Congratulations. Really
He was brilliant, though, wasn't he?
Yeah.
Like, he really set me on a little bit of a path of just... like learning a bit about boxing, and then I got into doing more boxing.
We did do one class together. You actually dragged me along. Well, not drag me along. We went and did that sword fighting class as well.
Yeah,
just after that, and that was awesome.
That was great. I've been thinking about them recently. Actually, I've got a little team. Actually, hopefully, I'm putting it out there, Ben. The boys who shot Stringy Bark are going to come along and do this little vignette that I've written as a medieval piece down at outside lawn. I just heard that the Lord of the Rings show, which was umming and ahhing, so says people in the industry, won't say who, have reopened the books to casting. It's confirmed, greenlit, $1.2 billion production in New Zealand next year. So if you can put yourself together a little bit of medieval footage, I'd highly advise it if you're an aspiring actor and you want to get picked up.
Yeah, that's smart.
You know?
That's
fuck
really
yeah.
smart.
Yeah, even if you're paying for yourself to jump across to New Zealand, who gives a fuck?
I've actually heard of a few actors getting New Zealand rep because there's a lot of stuff being shot out there at the moment. Like, not just The Lord of the Rings, but, you know, there's a lot of content that's in pre-production and such. So one of my... she's a younger girl. But I think she actually stopped with a manager in the States, and then at the sort of roughly the same time, she was advised by someone to get New Zealand rep. I'm not sure how it's going for her, but yeah.
I've got a buddy who utilizes like a combination of reps, and it's been really good for him too. Like, he was born in New Zealand but raised here, so he's got the Kiwi rep. So anything cool that's happening out there, he's on the ground. He's got the Aussie rep here. And then he's been out in Canada, and he's been able to track through Canada on 2 different passports.
Really
so
making...
Do my time as an Aussie, then do my time as a Kiwi.
Making the most of the Commonwealth.
Fuck yeah. Let's get that mic dragged back a little bit, because the other thing that I've noticed in my... So bring it back around.
Oh, so
because so we've got camera technique here too, Robbie.
Sorry, you got to protect.
Man, I have a heap of podcasts where I'm like, just behind the mic like this. And
I got to show. Hi, Mum. Hey, there we go. She'll be happy now.
Hey, so let's backtrack. So the last time I saw you, we were doing the sword class.
Yep.
It's such a... I've been on this sort of like, as you... correct me if I'm wrong, but you had an injury a few years back before class, right?
Yep.
So you're not only you're on this creative journey, but if you're somewhat healthier and introspective and what have you, you're on a physical sort of, you're constantly learning about whatever. And as our sort of brand is leading men, it's expected that you're going to be somewhat athletic.
Yep.
But doing that class, I was, because I've got a lot of problems with my shoulder and my traps and tension and what have you, and I was like, man, I'm never going to be able to hold up a role on fucking Game of Thrones or something like that. Stun double, I can't hold this fucking thing anymore. And that was a plastic sword.
Man, I was the exact same thing. I think I actually fought when we were doing it. I was even using my left hand. Because
that's right. You were like...
I've had 2 operations on my elbow. So it's pretty good now. It limits me every single day.
Right.
Like, every single day.
What was it from? Footy? Car crash or something?
When I was in, like year 9 or something, I fell off a skateboard. And
right.
It was like blunt trauma as well. It wasn't even like a twist or a twang or anything like that. It was just blunt trauma.
Just a smash.
But it was one of those things, like, and I'm not saying this to try and be tough, but it legitimately didn't hurt that much. I mean, I put an elbow guard on and we ended up, because it was in my mate's backyard, we were skating like this mini half pipe that he bought. I don't know where, but it was awesome. Mm-hmm. But yeah, like I skated the rest of the day. But yeah, and then after a while, I didn't get it checked straight away because it was just like, I bumped my elbow. I'd done much more painful things on a skateboard and many other things, I put my body through a fair bit of trauma as a kid, motorbike riding, water skiing, football. I've broken, I don't know how many bones.
Fuck, I've never broken a bone, thank fuck.
Oh, touch wood for sure. Yeah, no, I think like multiple fingers. I've broken my collarbone, my elbow, my wrist twice, number of fingers, fractured my ankle.
Jesus
so it's
Christ.
like...
And the elbow's the number one.
The elbow's the one that restricts me the most. It was even... Because originally I was a carpenter before diving into acting. And I mean, I was only a chippy out of... I don't know. That's what I thought I needed to do. I didn't like school. I knew, like, I was definitely not going to go to university. I had no desire to continue learning. Long circle, but like learning's one of my favorite things now.
Yeah. But that was always there, obviously.
It's just the content. It's just the content. I was very much, where am I going to apply this within life? I think that's what I love so much about acting is everything's applicable. Well, not necessarily just acting, but filmmaking as well, which as we'll talk about, I'm sure, because we've both sort of gone from just being actors or being interested in acting and creating our own content.
Yeah, you have to, hey? You absolutely have to. And that's sort of one of the reasons that this podcast exists. And hopefully it becomes, and I'll keep saying this till the right person hears it, or, without sort of like trying to sidestep the obvious fact of, I need to build followers.
100%.
Is that it becomes a place that producers go to hear new ideas being floated.
Yep.
They're like, oh, what's next on the books? Hey, there's this podcast down in Melbourne and they're talking to all the... Tune in, you might hear it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
How good would that be?
Yeah.
To be this place that stories get funded and made. Could be epic.
It also, I mean, I was listening to a few of your episodes, as I said, off mic before, and it's really nice to, you find a sense of community, even if you're not in the room with you guys, like on podcasts.
You sure do.
I am huge. Like, I barely listen to radio anymore. Like,
who fucking listens to radio?
If I'm in the car, I'm on a podcast of some sort.
100%.
And
100%.
most of them are filmmaking or something to do with the industry.
Yeah.
I've tried, the horror. I just can't. I don't know.
I've never been a horror fan.
Yeah, but like that true crime.
Oh, like the one that's super popular or whatever.
Yeah. I mean, I looked up what the best podcasts to listen to, and I got, I couldn't get into them. Whereas, I just love listening to a podcast. You feel people are on the same journey as you. It makes you sane, especially in this industry when you're like...
It's a really good way to put it. It really, really does. It can be quite empowering. And one of the things, when I was originally... Excuse me.
No.
Sort of not tiptoeing around, but like, okay, like maybe I should start a podcast. And I've talked about the sort of catalyst for why I did and who from far away gave me the idea. But one of the doubts that I had was, who the fuck is going to listen to this?
Yeah.
Like, who wants to, other than my buddies, do this and listen to it? But the more and more I'm researching about creating podcasts and the people who are teaching people how to do podcasts, is one of the things they say is be very specific and be as niche as you fucking can. And 1,000 followers and 1,000 listeners or whatever you is the goal, and that will pay for you to keep your podcast going. And there's got to be 100,000 actors at least between here and Sydney, if not more.
Yeah. And
that's not a far stretch. I wanted to jump back where we were talking about your elbow, because earlier this year I not tore but did a big double whammy of tennis elbow and golfer's elbow, so on the inside and on the outside.
The tendonitis.
Tendonitis.
Yeah, I've got that. I've got nerve entrapment. I've got tendonitis in my bicep, and I get spurts of it through the shoulder, all through the elbow.
Right.
So
I've had
shocking.
it, for years,
Yeah.
but I haven't had a big smash of it since mid 2000s, and it got me this year, and it got me really, really badly. And so
And you just got recently married, didn't you?
I got married in January. Yeah.
Well, that should.
What's the segue? Alleviate the pressure.
Yeah.
Hey, man. Hey. After the child, maybe.
There you go. Sorry, yeah.
No. But I went on this big expedition to find out how the fuck can I heal this without, spending hundreds and hundreds of dollars with, acupuncture or massages and whatever. And the long road took me to these two fellas, Rad and Yanni, and I hope I'm saying this right, guys, Burmeister, probably not, but they run a gym in Sydney called Unity Gym.
Yeah.
And they're both, been athletes of some description their entire lives, but in their mid-30s, they sort of really discovered a gymnastics way of training.
Yep.
More than calisthenics, and they use an example of like calisthenics people can do muscle ups and what have you, but they can't do a press handstand with a box split on top. So they're not that mobile. They might be strong with body weight, but they can't. So it's that combination, and I think Rad is martial arts trained as well. But anyways, I reached out to him. I said, listen, man, I've got fucking tendonitis. No one can really tell me, like even physiotherapists just say, oh, just rest it. Here's a couple of
just don't do things.
Just
that
don't
are
do
hurting
things
it.
that involve life.
I can't even wash the dishes without it being.
You can't hold anything, and so they made me a video specific for me and posted on YouTube. And they said, forget everything that you fucking have been told. You cannot let it go, and you can't just rest it, and don't put ice packs on it. The inflammation is there for a reason. It's doing it. It has a purpose. You need to progressively overload all of those areas, and it's not just your elbow, it's your wrists, it's your shoulders, it's your scaps, it's your core. All of that load that you're transferring to your elbows needs to be addressed. And they made this great video. And since then...
You have to send this to me.
Yeah, dude. I mean, I'm just out on the back balcony with a broomstick doing whatever fucking... all the terminology.
Yeah. Pronation, supination.
Pronation, supination, and eccentric, concentric, all that kind of stuff, all the way. And then I couldn't do a push-up for 5 months.
Yep.
And I was doing ring muscle-ups, 2 months before. It was just game over. And so now I'm doing their online training program, which is epic. And they have a great... Facebook page where they send you videos and stuff like that, answer all of your questions. The layout, their videos, I've tried a bunch of online trainings, and normally they're a pile of shit.
Yeah.
They're super tough to use, so fucking cryptic. Boys at Unity Gym, I will send that to you. They have completely remodeled the way that I've trained. And so for the last 3 months, I've been doing a top to bottom rebuild, because I get shin splints too, so that's the next one. How the fuck am I going to run in a scene if I can't run for more than 10 meters?
The really scary thing is the last person I really had common ground with talking about all my injuries was my nana. And then she passed away, and I was like, oh, well, I'm next in the family.
Fucking have to talk to myself about this shit,
Yeah, we were chatting about, the medication we were on, and look, I've gotten a lot better now. Just smarter maintenance and a few other things, but no, I'm just open to anything that can help.
I'll take you on another quick tangent, and we'll get back into some film stuff, but I've been actually wanting to bring this conversation into the podcast for ages, so this is a great opportunity. Another two people that have popped into my world through this, they came in before, but two guys, Dr. Joe Dispenza. This fella broke his back in a marathon 25 years ago.
Yeah.
And he was a chiropractor, so he understood the anatomy of his spine. So there's a head start there, but he also understood the science at that time behind meditation. And he meditated his way out of a broken back.
Right.
They were going to fuse his back and put all kinds of shit in there, and he was going to be out for like a year in a wheelchair, this whole fucking thing. And he said, you know what? No thanks. Like a full bodysuit, the whole bit. He said, I'm not going anywhere. I am just going to just back off. I'm going to do my thing.
Mm-hmm.
And within 6 weeks, he had mobility again. And within 9 weeks, he was walking again. And since then, he's been touring the world, teaching people how to do all kinds of things, but all through meditation. And it's pretty fucking epic. And one of the people he's now affiliated with is a guy called Dr. Bruce Lipton. And he's kind of like the forefather of, or founding father of epigenetics. And that is the science now that they know that the environment influences the gene.
Yeah.
Not just your legacy.
Yep.
So you can manipulate your genetics through meditation to heal yourself, to boost your immune system.
Yeah.
So I did a whole bunch of things at the same time. And I'm not an everyday meditator yet. I'm trying. It's fucking hard.
It is.
It's really hard, man. My buddy says it best. It's the hardest easy thing to do.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
just sit there for 20 minutes, man. But it's, anyways, I'll leave it at that, and I'll give you some links. But the meditation has been really fucking helpful.
I think there's another one that I thought might be something to do. It's called earthing, and is it something similar to that?
That reduces inflammation, reconnects you.
Something I try and do. Look, I live down the Mornington Peninsula, just opposite this beautiful park, and
barefooted.
I try to, as well. Whenever I'm in Sydney as well, there's another park that I go to, and I mean, I'm the furthest thing. I'm much more closer to a bogan than a hippie, but
you're coming over, man. You've been progressively coming over for years.
No, I'm probably the biggest hippie bogan. I'm kind of like a combination of the two, for sure.
You'll progressively, you won't forget it, but the more and more creative you become, and the more you expand your mind, you will find, and this happens. There's another guy called Alan de Bottom, and he says, the happiest people are the loneliest people. Mm-hmm. So the more enlightened you become, and the more self-aware you become, and the healthier you become, the more grounded you become, and the less insecure you become, the less you have in common with the vast majority of people.
Yeah, yeah.
And your conversations change, and then all of a sudden...
Well, it's the exact same. I mean, it's the polar opposite. But, most of the people who are lonely are ones with people surrounding them. Because again, there's just no...
For the wrong reasons.
Yeah?
Yeah. Let's get into some film talk.
Let's do it.
Talk to me about Banana Split.
Oh wow. Okay, so that was a hell of a journey.
Yeah.
Perfect example of that was my first real film that I did.
Still coming out though, is that right, or is it out?
Out. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
So
okay.
it hasn't had. We were supposed to be screening at a festival next Tuesday, and it just got pushed back.
Oh, right.
It's a film, Melbourne Underground Film Festival.
Okay, cool.
It's been running for 20 years, and they reckon this is the first time ever that it's been pushed back, but it's been pushed back till April now, I think. So, that's kind of the way things go, and it's the way the journey of Banana Split has gone.
Right.
It was, so my sort of path, my transition in between becoming an actor and a filmmaker was, we did show reels. Josh and I went to TAFTA together, did the 20-week full-time there back in started 2016. And then I just remember, I was interested a little bit in behind the scenes. When we were shooting show reels, I was there. And
yeah, you mean being on the camera?
Yeah,
or whatever.
yeah. It was different, but it didn't really excite me. It was cool. It was
it looks like a lot of hard work, man.
And it was also, but it was also I get bored pretty easily. So I was it's either help or sit. And I'm I'm going to lose my mind if I have to sit around for a 14-hour day. So I jumped in behind the camera, and then same sort of deal. I met my partner in that course, Jess Orchick. And so she lived in Sydney. I was in Melbourne. And... yeah, so then I was traveling up to Sydney, later that year. Was it later that year? I don't know. I think it was. And then I was doing some show reels there. No, it wasn't. It wasn't until I went back. Sorry. I went to the States and studied with her school over in America, still acting.
Yeah, yeah.
Sorry, this is long wind to get back to Banana Split.
Hey man, that's a long form conversation. That's what we're here
for. It kind of all connects because like a same sort of deal. I went over to America and the person who was supposed to be like doing the technical side of things, he was also my roommate and he stopped doing the program. The course she runs is phenomenal. Like I cannot recommend it high enough. I've done it 2.5, 3 times, and like the first time I did it, I was like, wow, I got a lot to learn, and it wasn't intimidating. I don't know. I thought I was more ready then. I mean, you've got to have somewhat of you have to be somewhat delusional to be an actor.
Yeah, totally.
You know, there's a part of you that has to have that delusion. It's kind of healthy because you got to, believe in yourself.
I mean, if you were a realist, you would never fucking do it.
That's right. That's right. So, that I thought I'd go to LA. They'd love my accent, the Aussie guy, and I'd heard stories about it. And people were telling me they'll love you. They'll love Aussie.
Yeah.
They love Aussie guys, and I was in a lot better shape then than I am now.
Yeah, what the fuck, dude?
Yeah. I edit a lot. A lot. Yeah. I drink a lot of coffee and I sit at a desk a lot now. So
oh man.
But yeah, so like I got there and I wasn't ready. I wasn't even nearly ready. I mean, I'm more okay with that now than I was then. I was so...
Did it rattle you?
Oh, 100%.
Really? Right.
You have those breakdowns. And my roommate at the time went through it worse than I did.
Right.
Right. Not comparison, but he was like, I'm not going to do acting anymore. And I think it's also that's what I love about the program that Jess runs as well. TAFTA, by the way, sorry, shameless plug. Why not? Is it does push you. It's like, do you really want this? It's kind of make or break.
Right.
And there's a lot of people, not a lot of people, but there's a number of people who go, this isn't for me.
Like halfway through the course. Fuck off, really?
Yeah.
And like their money back? No.
Well, I mean, it depends. No, it's
they shouldn't.
No, it's like, I mean, the course is, in comparison to any other course out there, there's a reason. I'm a tight ass. I'm a huge tight ass. And there's a reason why I was able to do the course because it is affordable. Right. But they didn't go home or anything. I think, there has been something. Anyways, but he had that, back to sort of the thing. He had that, I had that. But so I ended up taking over the technical side of things. So I was like,
right, because the show must go on.
Yeah, so I was setting up cameras for teachers, really basic stuff. And then, there was just this constant thing that people kept saying is like, you should be creating your own content. You should be creating your own content.
Yeah.
I was always like, I'm going to get a big job and I'll be fine. Like, that sense of delusion. And look, I've still got a bit of it. I'm hopeful.
You have to.
I'm hopeful for it.
Yeah.
That preparation, the old saying, preparation plus opportunity equals success.
Wow.
Right.
I remember that whole.
Yeah. Like, and the more and more, I'm prepared now. Like, I'm confident that I'm prepared with the amount of training that I've done.
What are you, 3 years into it now?
Yeah, and I,
that's a degree.
I've only. And some people look at me and go, oh, you're so young in the industry. And I go, no. This is all I've done for the past 3.5, 4 years. Like, I mean, occasionally I have gone back and done really short stints in carpentry, month here, month there at a time.
Got to do it.
But I'm working 12-hour days.
Yeah.
I'm working so I don't have to work again. It's been such a luxury to fall back on because I can earn, some good cash.
Yeah.
Some good cash fast. But that's kind of the, so what was I?
So Banana Split.
Yeah. So
you wrote Banana Split way back.
I wrote it. I was in the car. I was listening to a podcast. It is, Just Shoot It. One of my favorite. It was for filmmakers and directors and they also produce, they're like mid-tier directors and over in the States. When I say mid-tier, they're like they're not doing big Hollywood movies. They're not far off it.
Yeah, but they're doing TV movie type stuff.
Yeah, like TV series. They've done some like web series. They're doing
series,
consistent commercials and stuff like that. They're pitching, whatever. But they get some great people on the show. And they had, I think it was through them or direct. It was sort of like one of those things. And there was this guy called Jim Cummings. And he just they were telling a story how he wrote his podcast. He wrote his short film, Thunder Road, in the car whilst he was driving to work every day. He was writing it through voice memes and stuff like this. And this thing just won the grand jury prize for the shorts at Sundance. Actor, had never directed before, and I'd probably done maybe 20 to 30 show reels in which I'd shot, directed, or edited and done so much content, and started working on some other people's short films as cinematographer and editing and stuff like that. So I was like, screw it, I'm going to do it. Like, I'm just going to do it. And I was driving home from Sydney, and I same deal. Jess was in the States at the time. We were pinballing ideas. She was the one who kind of gave me the kick up the arse that I needed. She's like a girl called Holly Clark. And,
I know Holly.
Yeah, that's right. And Luke Vanos.
Is that the fella in it with you?
Yeah. So, and he's through TAFTA somewhere earlier, just before we were there. But she's like she's a coach, acting coach as well. So she was coaching them and having chats with them, and she's like, they're both really good actors and they're both really keen. You should write something with them. And I was like, oh, okay. So we just started pinballing ideas, and this random idea. I'm like, 2 guys, 1 girl.
Yes. Perfect. Why not?
So, but
well, I was watching it. I was like, this motherfucker.
Yeah. But it's it went from that idea, and I was like, oh, I'm Jim Cummings, and I'm like recording it on my phone, and I got home, and it was still like not there, and I'm still like banging my head, and I mean, English for me to ever call myself a writer is like the most bizarre thing ever.
Yeah,
It'd be like the really skinny guy in school now who's a bodybuilder.
Right.
It's like I'm far from intellectually intelligent. I've always had like a sense of like street smarts.
But I'm never the same as you like that.
Yeah. So like writing English, I was in like the dumb English classes in high school and all that sort of stuff, and I ended up doing okay thanks to a great education. But like, to be a writer, and it was just this thing. And I mean, if I can help anyone out there, and the reason I'm sort of saying this is it was banging my head against the wall, and it still is. It still is. But you know what? I talk to everyone, and it's the same sort of process. Some people can churn it out like there's no tomorrow.
Yeah.
Some. But I mean, from when I used to lift a lot more weights than I do now when I was playing football and stuff like that. One of our lifting coaches used to say, when your deadlifts, it's like opening a jar. It's consistent pressure, not one burst of that. And I think that's the same with writing for me. It's that consistent pressure. And I never related it back to sport until, I started writing a bit more. And in sport, you're going for a run, you got to push through the wall. I never did that with any like work. Like anything to do with like, I could always do it physically, but I never did it mentally.
But it is still mental.
Yeah.
You just have to slot it in a new.
But it was a different. Like I was so uncomfortable, I would just leave it. I'd go away and probably do something active. Do you know what I mean?
Because you knew you could achieve what you were after with sport.
Yeah.
Where the other thing was, I don't know.
Yeah, and you always come back to, I mean, everyone is, I'm the dumb kid. Why am I writing? I should find someone else to write.
Right.
But, I mean, and the things that keep you going is like the little comments like Adam Sandler goes, and he's one of my favorite,
he's great.
His early days for sure. And he's back on the up apparently, but I've got to watch.
The preview looks good.
But he says, "I'm not that funny, I'm not that attractive, but yet I've made millions." And you don't. I think we always strive for like that perfection, and once you just alleviate the pressure, and there's other people who call it like the vomit pass. Just get it down on paper. Just Just
Yeah.
fucking do it.
I think that that's a really, really good strategy because there's a laziness too. Well, for me, there's laziness wrapped up. For me, it's just like, oh, fuck. Like I would hesitate to put words down until I already had it. But if you just start and just get something going, it's just like
Anything.
doing a warm up on a guitar. A lot of like Joe Walsh from the Eagles, like Life in the Fast Lane just came from a warm up, and he was just sitting down getting a warm up, and they were like, that's a fucking song.
Yeah.
So you just don't know what, but if you're just sitting there not doing anything,
Yep.
you're never going to find it.
And the other bit of advice, because I teach a bit now as well about like filmmaking and stuff like that.
With Jess.
Yeah, have done. I've taught back at TAFTA once or twice, and we're actually starting a e-course at the moment. So that's what I was doing today. So I'm kind of in that zone.
Yep,
but
zone.
it's like as well. It's like what helps me is I think people, especially young filmmakers and new indie filmmakers, not people without the Hollywood budget, and even people with the. We do everything backwards. Like everyone goes, I'm going to be creative. I can do anything in the world. I'm going to write the best story. And you immediately cripple yourself. You're immediately screwed.
How do you mean?
So you need to write, then this is what I believe is you need to go backwards. You need to go, who do I have? What do I have? How can I write around it? And that's what I had. I had 2 actors. I limited it to a single location. I was like, I'll just shoot it in my house. It ended up adding a bar in it, but I was like, I was trying to write it out, but it fit the scene. It made the characters, it made the relationship better. The moment of understanding these 2 guys immediately as soon as they meet each other, the bar just made sense because they're so private in public type thing, when they meet.
Right.
It's just this brother relationship that's boisterous that shouldn't be going on in a bar. Like if it happened in a house, it just wouldn't have that same sort of chemistry and you wouldn't get it.
Okay.
So you've got to write within your limitations. And like I'm not saying, definitely you've got to be creative and you can be creative about your limitations or with your limitations. But if you write this script that's got all these characters and it's got this, that, and the other, it's never going to get made. You're never going to make it until put that script on the shelf for when you are a big Hollywood director, let's say, and maybe one day you do get the budget and someone goes, hey, you got anything? You're like, oh, well, I couldn't afford this. Here it is. But when you're first starting out, keep it simple. Like, what do I have? What stories do I, it was so simple. 2 guys and a girl, and I made it, it was writing from within myself. Me and my best mate have always had an ongoing joke about who's Batman and who's Robin,
Well, I can see your humor all over it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And
which is where your strength lies, I think.
And you don't understand how big a compliment that is. And I've got it from a few people. And for me as a writer, that's like, I'm like,
oh, I get it. Yeah.
Like
100%.
that's
it's the best.
If someone says that's your humor, I go, awesome.
Yeah, now I know where my brand is.
Yeah.
Especially when you're not trying to premeditate the brand. If you just let it flow. Like when I was started out as a fashion photographer, I was listening to, and I've said this before, this fucking mic. I need a little screwdriver.
It's going limp.
It's just, meh. Fuck you, Josh. I don't want to do it today. Russell James, Perth guy, major photographer for Victoria's Secret.
Mm-hmm.
It's the best way to, and this isn't the photography world, but it's the same thing. Find your style and your brand is at the end of a shoot and you've got all your photos and you're flicking through them. Just grab the ones that you would stop to look at.
Mm-hmm.
If you were flicking through a magazine, what would you stop and look at? That's your brand.
Yeah.
Do that 20 times and all of a sudden you have a style.
Yeah.
And when someone first came up to me and said, oh man, I saw your photos on such and such. You've got this really, you make really natural women look like really beautiful. I was like, oh, that's my style. It wasn't premeditated.
Yeah.
And then I started to cognitively re-engineer, like reverse engineer how I got to that spot. And that was the 90s, growing up in the 90s and all of the your Chris Isaac music videos and those supermodels of that time, and black and white magazine, huge influences. So I was just trying to recreate that, which turns out, not to say that I was on the forefront of a trend, but the 90s is a big trend now.
Yeah, for sure.
So you made the film, you got it made.
Yeah, well, and the way we got it is another thing. Is like it's I mean, we shot this April 2000. What are we now? 2019. So April 2018. So it wasn't that long ago, and I only finished it sort of a couple of months ago, really. So it was a long process. But the same deal, like I did a always push yourself for work. So I shot a friend's wedding, Zoe Marcos, you know as well. Yeah. So I shot her sister's wedding, and she didn't have much money. She paid me, but I worked an 18-hour day because I was up with the bride and all this stuff. I never shot a wedding before. It was a great experience. I'm not saying never, but it's definitely not what
do it again.
Yeah.
Shit.
But so she goes, "Oh, can you shoot my sister's wedding?" And I was like, "Sure, why not?" And I was like, "I don't have this. This is the gear I have, so I can't, I don't have professional audio gear, blah, blah, blah." She was at uni at the time, and she goes, "Oh, I can get that stuff for you from uni." And I go, "What do you mean?" And she goes, "Oh, I can hire you that gear." I was like, "Wait, can we hire that whenever we want whilst you're at uni?" And she's like, "Yeah, I think so." I was like,
"Movie time."
I was like, "Dude, are you kidding me?"
That's awesome.
And I can't remember whether that came before or I think maybe that was before I'd even started the concept of Banana Split. So it was another thing where I'm like, I've got to make a film. And so we had so much gear. Like, I mean, we had...
Like, what do we do with this?
We had... That's shot on 2 Canon C100s. We had beautiful lenses. I don't know. Again, it was such an early stage of my filmmaking days. I didn't know what LUTs were. I didn't know a bunch of things. I had a great cinematographer at the time, Jack Wilson Lee, I think.
Sorry, Jack.
Yeah. No. I'm like, I don't know. I know his name on Facebook, but yeah. I know it's a hyphen. It's definitely not. No, I'm worried if it's Jack Lee Wilson. But no, it is Jack Wilson Lee. Right. And he was great. Like, he was brilliant. The film... And I went into Banana Split without having a cinematographer. I just went hell at it. I had locations booked in. I had a few mates that I was like, I thought would come in. And they were just busy, They were busy. And so he saved me at the last moment. It was through his sister Phoebe Wilson, who you probably know through TAFTA as well.
So was that your first film then?
Yeah, we were doing a documentary at the same time. We did a short documentary called, which is part of 2, called Stepping Into Focus, which is about a young...
Zoe's project, was it?
No. So Focus on Ability is a short film festival based out of Sydney. It's been running for 11 years now.
Yeah.
And it focuses on the achievements and abilities of people with disabilities.
Yeah.
And we got a little bit of funding through Focus. I was
great.
over in the States at the time, and one of their major prize winners of the film festival is they get a all-inclusive trip to LA, and they come out and they meet with producers, and they do the AFM, the American Film Market, a bunch of other these things. And so what we did is we documented his journey into the States. It's about 11, 12-minute short. Kind of really focusing on what Focus does and the impact that it can have.
Like a flow state.
Yeah, because I mean, it's really it's a huge debate at the moment going on in the industry. With disability, people playing actors without disabilities, and
give it to someone who's disabled.
Being more inclusive of disabled actors and disabled filmmakers, because look, and I've spoken to some uneducated people, and it comes back down to exposure, and that's what Focus is doing. Is because people have this preconceived idea about people with disabilities that they can't do things, Even if it's like they're in a wheelchair, they think somehow that affects it. You know, they don't focus on their ability, which is what the film festival's all about. Every film has to focus on the ability or achievement of someone with a disability.
So give me an example of an ability.
So
if they're a disabled cinematographer,
well,
what do you mean?
Yeah, of course. But like, it's like anything from what they can do, not what they can't. So like Jared has autism.
Mm-hmm.
I believe it's like I forget the actual Asperger's, but I think the name changed just quite recently to or whether it's autistic. I don't know. One of those isn't classified as politically correct now. I don't know. But anyways, he and everyone, you know, when you think of that, you don't think, oh, filmmaker. Like, and he made this incredible such a genuine story about himself. And he did it in a way that no one else would do. And because he has that perspective. Yeah. And it's just these stories about, you know, as well, exposing the community to what, again, like people really think that just because you're in a wheelchair or because you have autism or because anything, maybe, you know, you've lost your hand. There's a John Lawson over in the States who, you know, he has hooks. Because, you know, he was electrocuted when he was painting, I believe.
Jesus.
Another one who's an incredible writer, Alan Rucker, who just woke up at paralysis, I believe, or something like that. And they both said the same sort of thing. You can join this club at any stage. They're no less. And I believe it was Alan Rucker who says, you know, it actually, he's more passionate about what he does. It kind of gave him a second shot at life, becoming paralyzed, because he's got more appreciation for life. And he's a better writer for it. And all this other stuff, you know, it's just, it doesn't change people. It doesn't change who they are. And they need to be, like, we all deserve the same opportunity, right? Preparation plus opportunity equals success, as I said before. But the problem is people aren't preparing because they're never going to get the opportunity, so they're never going to succeed. So
people, what people?
So anyone with a disability isn't going to pursue one of the most exclusive jobs ever in the world.
Because they're already at a disadvantage.
Yeah, exactly. Right. Like, so if you're an actor or you know, people who are, I mean, it's terrible, but like able-bodied or you know, without a disability.
Yeah.
I mean, we've all got disabilities, and we were talking about it before, literally. But like, you know, it's just this annoying thing where like, they're not gonna get that opportunity. And so what Focus on Ability does is they focus on their ability, which gives them a reason to prepare. It gives them a reason to practice and do and go for this industry. It gives them a platform to show their work and share it. So there's interested to see. There's that preparation, and they're getting the opportunity, and they're gonna fucking succeed. They will. There's countless examples I could give you, as we've done a whole feature documentary on it. So like, I won't harp on it for too long. So that I already have. But
I wasn't going to call you out on it.
Yeah. No. You gave me a look.
Self-regulation.
But
no, I get what you're saying. And it's interesting that that this has become quite important to you.
I'd never been exposed to it. And so I wasn't ignorant, I wouldn't say.
No, but if it doesn't come into your field of view, then fucking why would you?
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
And you know, like I have one more thing, is because this is the type of you know, attitudes that Focus is trying to change, is because, you know, I was talking to a woman in the States about it, and she goes, well, don't quote me on this, and I can't even remember her name, so I'm not gonna. But and she's like, but you know, like it just costs more, and I was like,
yeah, but that, you know, cash talks, man. Like,
well, hang on. So an example of the way the government system works, and I'm not sure about America,
right?
But if someone is out of work here because they have a disability, we as the taxpayers are necessarily
Right.
funding them, right?
Yeah.
So if someone goes off that and has a job,
They're less of a drain.
we're not actually paying for that out of
Yeah.
our tax. And now we have just established another taxpayer by giving them a job and an opportunity. So it very quickly, a wheelchair ramp here and there, a rail here and there, the cost is not even comparable.
It's not comparable, but one is someone else's cost and one is your cost.
Mm-hmm.
You know, so when it's the government's cost, it ain't my cost.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that would be the mentality.
And there is government incentives over here for that.
Oh, that's great. Yeah, and look, it's constantly becoming a better situation.
Yeah.
You know, and I think it will. It's an unfortunate situation that we face at the moment where, and it's like anything, you push so hard one way, then the counter is the other way just as hard.
Yeah.
And so now we have this hypersensitivity fucking craziness and people, you know, established really good actors losing out on roles for the sake of diversity.
Yeah.
You know, like Joe Rogan uses a great example of a friend of his who was writing whatever, whether it's a film or a TV show, I don't know, but he was, no one was going to give him funding because it wasn't diverse enough. And he's like, it's the middle of the 1800s in the Bronx.
Yeah.
Wasn't that diverse? Or it wasn't the kind of diverse that you're saying I need.
Yeah.
You know, it was whatever it is. I'm not familiar with, let's just say it's a whole bunch of Italians. It's like Little Italy or something like that. That's how it was.
Yeah.
We don't need to start rewriting history.
No.
You know, we can change the future.
And if you do, that's a complete other story, which is fine. But it's, I mean, I had the same. I was talking about a movie concept idea that I had. Again, that's one on the shelf that's way too expensive for me to make now, but it's one I would love to make. And one of my friends goes, "Oh, hey, you know, if you put like an Aboriginal as your main character into that, you would get funding." And 100%, would it be a great film to tell with an Aboriginal as a lead? 100%, not debating that, but it's not my story.
Yeah.
And I mean, that's the question you need to ask. And it's a question that they ask a lot so I've heard again from a lot of podcasts, is why this movie, why now, and why are you the storyteller to tell it? And
interesting questions.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And it's like that definitely is not my story to tell. Would I love to be involved? Yeah, but I'm not the one to be at the. I have no exposure to that community.
Yeah. Someone else
would be so disgenuine.
Yeah, who has more exposure is the guy for this.
100%.
Yeah.
100%.
Yeah.
And that goes back to, you know, and that is where the hypersensitivity, it comes from a certain, it comes from somewhere. And it is because they need to, you know, have that opportunity offered at least to then, you know, because otherwise there's no point of like, can you imagine like preparing all this acting work and doing all the training you were, and you know that you're never going to get a job, or the likeliness of you getting a job is even more minimal than what it is now, like times 10.
Right. Yeah.
I mean, because that is what, you know, any ethnic actor has gone through before us, and it's like the pendulum has swung, and it
definitely has.
It's swung too far the other way, and I hope I feel
like it is. You know, little murmurs going around, like, okay, cool. Now we're starting to.
Well, it's a worse time, and that's why, you know, it's a really nice thing to be able to make your own content, and I kind of had to out of necessity because
you fucking absolutely have to. You cannot walk around with your hands out. And I will say this, for never ever did I think that I was going, and I still wouldn't call myself a writer.
Yeah.
But I have written.
Yep.
It really pumps up your understanding of character arcs as an actor. You know what I mean? Because then you're looking at it from the perspective of a writer, but you just see all of those in good writing. You see all of the beats. You know, I got it. Sounds snobbish, but and part of me is so tempted to email this person and sort of say, look, I'm going to say something to you, and you're probably going to hate me for this, but everyone needs to hear this at some point. But I got an audition through yesterday, and the post looked great. Like, it was a Start Now auditions, nothing major. About fires in Victoria and blah blah blah. I was like, fuck yeah, this is a pretty pressing, very relevant topic. I'll send me that shit. Sent it over, and it was straight away. I'm like, okay, this isn't written in a script writing software program.
Yeah.
Your dialogue is written as if it's action. You've put quotation marks on every section of dialogue. You're not quoting anyone. You're the character. You're writing. So I instantly said, no way, man.
Yeah.
Like, this is going to be a clusterfuck, and you're not ready to make a film if you don't even know how to write a script.
Yeah.
And I wanted to email, and I'm still humming and ahhing over it. I just said, look, that's not for me. But because that's the harsh fact, is you should be looking for someone to say, maybe you could do this, to tighten it up and make it stronger.
Yep.
I wanted to ask you, obviously we've got into a little bit of your transition and stuff.
Just on that, it's another thing I always like, because again, I've worked with like a lot of like teen, like youth, and a lot of actors coming through LA, because I've been over there at the same time of the program. And same sort of deal. As an actor, you really need to... You can't be snobbish, and you can't... But the things you should know is are the filmmakers giving or doing what they're doing with as much respect and as much passion as you are? So ask for a script. Ask where it's going to go. Are we going to enter into film festivals? What's your idea for this? And then also ask, is it IMDb credited?
Yeah.
They're kind of three elements that are really important, but always
super
ask for
important.
that script.
Yeah. And also know not your place, but your, I don't want to say right. It is your right, but know what you can expect and what you can't relative to your experience.
Yeah, 100%.
When you're starting out, you're a background extra. Take it, do it. It's a great experience. You get to see a big set. Then when you're just studying student films, you'll never see any footage. It's never going to work. Very, very fucking rarely. But it's great.
Yeah.
It's great. And then when you get out of that and you're not doing that and you've got a little couple of parts here and there, IMDb credit, must have. Where's it going? Must know. Can I get the footage? I want that in writing.
Yeah,
that's a
100%. The footage is that's another key element for sure. If you're giving your time for free, the least they can do is provide you the footage.
Yeah.
I got burnt a couple of times on that.
Me too. Hold that. This fucking microphone.
Yeah.
Drives me nuts. I need a
Screwdriver or gaffer tape, because gaffer tape fixes everything. Yeah. Filmmaking tip. Gaffer tape will fix everything, though. Yeah, no, I was watching you. At one stage, I was like, I wonder if I could, like, how you could quick fix it.
That's why I had a quick glance to see if I'd left like a coin up on there or something. Lesson learned. Another lesson learned. Check each time beforehand.
There you go.
Now, the edit that I was trying to avoid is here. Alright. It's time. Cool, 6. Better fucking get close to wrapping up.
Yeah, for sure.
Alright. Yes. Yeah, we've all been burned a little bit by footage. A lack thereof. Please don't be doing this. I've just fixed you. All right. But I want to move on.
Yeah, for sure.
What I wanted to ask you is, since we were both in the same course at TAFTA all those years ago, and you take what we were kind of just talking about. You take whatever you can get. Now you're learning how to write. You're learning how to direct, and you're watching fucking YouTube videos and Udemy courses, and you're going to classes here, and you're talking to whoever you can. But what do you think, or what have you found is what you do most naturally, and what do you think your brand will be when it comes to the big breakout role or whatever? What do you think it's going to be? What are they going to want to see from Robbie?
That's interesting. That's a great question. I think branding's so hard to identify with because you're always going against what you're feeling, what people are telling you, and everyone's got their own opinions, especially.
Do you reckon?
Do you know what I mean? Like,
I've found it the opposite. Like for me, finding my brand just came like with no premeditation.
yeah,
All the stuff that I booked was for the super intense, violent person.
well, the consistent,
the opposite of me.
the consistent one I have been cast as is homophobic, sexist.
I saw the advert.
Yeah. So I'm always kind of the douchebag, the guy. As we're talking about before, generally I would play the guy that goes, yeah, well, disabled people are going to cost you money.
Right.
I would be the guy
opposite,
who's going to play those.
Yeah.
You know, the guy who's just so small town, and I'm, you know, I mean,
You're
realistically,
from Franger.
yeah, yeah, woohoo. Yeah. So I mean, that's kind of like my typecasting is douchebag asshole.
But do you like doing that though?
I actually, this is gonna sound weird. I don't mind it because it's away from myself. There's always a challenging. Well, I don't want to say it is easy, but like you've got to separate the actual content that you know. It's
I'm not a sociopath that kills people.
Yeah, that's
but
right.
I find that more natural to do.
Well, it's what you know. So like if, for example, like if I was to play someone with really homophobic viewpoint, if it's like playing a person that's colorblind and doesn't know they're colorblind. You know, you're going it's yellow and I'm going it's blue. You know, and I'm getting angry at you because I think I'm right. It's kind of that's how I'd approach those type of characters. It's just that little bit of replacement, I guess, is changing the context of what you're actually talking about because you've just got to believe what you're saying. And I don't think that the other thing is you can't judge the person. They just don't know better.
Which person?
The person generally that I end up playing.
Oh, right.
Is like you can't have judgment towards them. They just don't know better. They haven't been exposed to these.
Yeah, everyone's got a story.
Yeah, you know.
Yeah. And if they're not born a psychopath, then they were born a good person, and their journey has taken them to this place.
That's right.
So that being said, where would you like to direct it?
So, what
would you want to do?
What I want to do is comedy. Is I love.
I think that's
I love comedy, and I didn't realize until I've liked drama, and I've done drama, and it's funny. The first scene I was like, I'm gonna do comedy. And the moment I said that, I got like this dramatic role. It was only like a class type thing. Very well-known teacher. And I said to her the same sort of deal. I was like, I'm focusing on comedy now. And she's like, don't you dare. After I was like, okay, cool. Like it was great feedback. But yeah, no, I love comedy. Adam Sandler, that early type of just people. I like to entertain people. If people watch my movies or anything like that, and they watch it and they can have a laugh and it's not too serious. It's not, it's not too, not too much like profanity. I don't want to like...
swearing for swearing's sake. And
yeah. If it suits the character for sure and all that sort of stuff. But yeah, lighthearted stuff that's just good fun, cheeky. I mean, I love Monty Python, that type of humor that's silly and fun and stupid. Little bit of slapstick here and there, That's what I want to do. But again, it's funny, like Jess writes, and she's a brilliant writer. Like, oh my God, when you get her dialogue, you go, oh, this is easy. You just learn it because it's well-written dialogue.
Yeah.
And we did a film called A Death Perspective at the end of last year, which is about a 25-minute film.
Yeah, right.
And we literally wrote, directed, and finished it in a week. And it's doing really well on the festival circuit now, which has been great. But you know, she writes her production company's called Diversity Pictures. So she's the one who was producing the short film documentary and the main documentary we're talking about. I'm sort of co-producing it just because I'm putting so much time and effort into it, doing editing and directing. But you know, her company's called Diversity Pictures, and this is like such real heavy drama. You know, it's about two sisters. Their dad's just passed away, and the different perspectives they have of a man. Is he a bad person who did good things, or is he a good person that did bad things? One sister believes the other things, and it's hectic. Like, you know, there's sexual.
You're in it too, right?
Yeah. There's sexual abuse and all that sort of stuff. It's funny. I mean, that was crazy. I shot the first scene. Like, we shot the first scene before everyone got there, because we shot we shot 19 pages in 16 hours. Which generally the going rate's about 3 hours a page or something like that.
Right.
And we did 19 pages in 16 hours.
Just smashed.
Yeah, we had sort of 2-3 cameras.
All inside, one location.
One location. Yeah. It's all at the wake type thing. Again, she wrote, and I don't know, I may have advised her. I can't remember. We worked together really well.
Bonus.
Yeah. I mean, God.
She would fuck if you didn't.
I mean, God, do we fight? For sure. Yeah, as you will do with anyone. But it's like we fight with passion, and we fight because we believe. It's really, you know, it's you know, work sometimes it doesn't, but we've been doing pretty well. That's not the only film we've worked on together either, and we're consistently, you know, working on other projects together. But you know, that's so again, I love directing. You know, we kind of co-directed that together. Because I was in a lot, she was in a lot, so she was kind of directing when she's. As I said, she's an acting coach, but as far as technical and lighting and stuff like that, you know, some of the scenes I was lighting that I was actually in. So, you know, I had a stand-in. I was setting up the cameras, we had a great DOP on that as well. And we'd sort of communicate, and then I'd sit in and go back into acting. And
yeah, it's an interesting thing to jump in and out like that. Like, I haven't done it for film, but I did it as I was progressing into like pulling the pin, not pulling the pin, but what's the word I'm looking for? Just sort of jumping into the acting. I started doing editorials that I was in that I would shoot. Yeah, so but in stills, you know, so I would, whatever the scene was, model that scene and then jump back out. But I would do everything with a trigger in my pocket and think, oh yeah, that's cool. Oh, it's a strange thing.
I did try once. Cause I did try and take my own headshot because I had like a beard and like a new haircut, and I was like, before I shave, I'll try and take a headshot. And then I couldn't do it. It was terrible.
What did you find to be the hardest part? Because I have an issue with taking my own headshot specifically. I can take my own portrait.
Okay, that's fair.
But my headshot, I can't do the cheese thing without the direction of someone to put me there.
Yeah. Okay, that makes it.
My default is always intense, brooding, or whatever. the fuck.
And it kind of looks like you need crap.
Yeah.
Or confused.
Yeah. I like to think I pull it off a little bit better than taking a shit, but I can't give that to my agent as my headshot.
No.
They're like, that's too intense, dude.
Yeah.
I get it. You can do that. That's fine. Give me the other thing that I can send off to a car commercial or a fucking chemist commercial.
Yeah.
And I need to get someone to do that for me.
Yeah.
So what was the hard part for you?
It just position, you know, body position.
Okay,
just those
right.
minute things like, you know, it being in two play. With film, I can switch it off because it's like, set it up, boom,
and then you're
shut
in.
that off. I mean, and I did it with Banana Split as well. So I directed, and I was in every single scene for that. So after Banana Split, when I edited that, I was like, never again. I'm not doing this ever again. There's so many details that I'm like, I would have picked up on as a director.
Yeah.
And that's not to any disservice to my DOP.
No, it's brutal. It's tough.
And we had our first AC on the day not show up. So then my co-director, who was supposed to be my eyes and ears behind the camera, jumped in and ended up first day seeing and pulling focus for us and all that sort of stuff. So we kind of lost that. And just minute details where I'm like, I would have seen that if I was just directing, but I'm in front of the camera. I'm like, you're an idiot. You did too many things. After I've done it twice more since then.
Yeah.
And I had another time was for another short that I did called Pass. And I loved it. I had I mean, I've said it about all my DOPs, but why can't I think of his last name? Matt. He's like Matt Young, who's one of my really close friends over in the States now, another Aussie. He's a director as well. So
Right.
he his partner Tam, Matt and Tam, who have like Young One Studios, she was on Boom, but she's a director as well. She's insane. Like the eyes and ears I couldn't have felt more safe. You tell them what you want, you go back in front of the camera, and they exceed your expectations. So you're just like, oh, awesome. So
yeah, the bands that did Stringy Bark, like we have done a bunch of just different clips now, and that's the same. Like we're just on the same page in terms of, but it really lends itself to drama.
Yep.
Like if I wanted to do a comedy clip, I wouldn't get Ben in, and we've already talked about that.
Yeah.
But we have a really because I look at everything from a photographer's perspective as well. So when it's not the compositions, like I am that asshole photographer that's actor that's on the other side of a student film going, don't you think it'd be better if you fucking swept in from here and then pulled in? Shut up.
Yeah.
But so we really, really line up in terms of our angles and what have you, which for me is really, it's just another thing that I don't have to. It's different when you're working with pros, obviously.
Yeah.
Not to say that they're not pros, they absolutely are. But when you're at that level and you just, for me, if I just don't trust the dude or girl on the camera,
Yep.
it's in the back of my mind and I can still let it go. But I am looking at it from that perspective.
And half the time you don't have, you on these films, you don't have time to watch playback either. You're moving so fast.
No, man, you got to just keep rolling with it. And you also have to be respectful of people's projects. You know, there's so many times because I'm typically on those kinds of projects, the oldest one there.
Yep.
You know?
Yeah.
Like their student films or young. And I'll say to them, look, I'm just going to give you everything that I got in terms of what I'm feeling, what I'm picking up, blah, 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 blah. Take what you will. I'm not here to hijack or derail your project. I'm just doing my job. And if it works, it works. If it doesn't, it doesn't. I'll do whatever you want. But this is the way that I embed myself into your project.
Yeah.
And 9 times out of 10, that's gold. They're like, yes, brilliant.
I mean, we're talking about brand. So with this podcast, who are you sort of branding to? Who's your like audience? Are they actors? Are they filmmakers?
Yeah, it is a very esoteric audience.
Yeah.
I don't know that too many people who aren't actors are going to listen to this because they're not listening to their favorite actors reveal the secrets of their major roles.
So you reckon it's generally going to be like indie filmmakers who are also
It'll be this little club.
So my question, and it's just something I always like if you were to go back to the start of where we, back to TAFTA, day one, is there anything that you would kind of do differently to where you are now?
Do you mean choices at school or choices after school?
More, well, even like, is it, like it's kind of, if you were to start all over again, what would you do differently? Or would you do anything differently?
Let me be more specific about what you're asking.
Okay.
So it's first day of school at TAFTA.
Not
do you mean
not
last?
even like even before that? Like you're a brand new. Let's say someone listening in is like, I'm a brand new actor. I have no interest. I'm interested in going into either the filmmaking world, acting, filmmaking, whatever. What. It's always interesting, and I hear it on other podcasts, and I always find it interesting is. We've talked a lot about like how we've kind of, and you kind of skip a few steps. Do you know what I mean?
I know
it's like not necessarily the advice you would give a specific individual because you're never gonna be, on target enough. But if you could do it to yourself, do you know what I mean? Like,
Look, there's a couple of different ways that I can come at that because I came to the party late.
Yes.
So I could say to you, I wish that when I was 13 and I had a big part in the play and I was in Rocker Stedford, that my dad never took me out of that school and I stayed with the drama club. But maybe I'd be a total asshole because I was successful as a young fella, and I've had experiences of being good in a company at 22 and getting praised for being a really good salesman, and it going to my head and I'm being a total shithead.
Yeah.
I came out the far side of it as a grounded adult.
Yeah.
So I can go through class and what have you, and not like for example, I give you this is so funny. I had a premonition that the conversation might go this way. One thing that I notice when everyone gets a little bit of traction, typically in the younger crowd, is their dialogue in the way that they speak to you changes, and it becomes this badge of busy. And if you ask someone, "How are you, man?" "Oh, just got out of this. Just been filming this." I didn't ask what you're doing.
Yes.
I asked how you are.
Yep.
And everyone, as soon as there's a little bit to go, Robbie, with his phone not on silent.
It's on airplane mode, so I don't know how that happened.
There's a calendar update.
There you go.
Their dialogue changes. So my advice to anyone would be just do it. Do it for you. Don't ever stop doing it. Don't ever let anyone bring all that shit bring you down. But don't be a dick about it.
Yeah.
There is something really, really pure and beautiful when someone asks you, "What are you working on?" Instead of you jamming it down their throat.
Yeah.
And I get promoting and stuff like that. If I went to a dinner with a bunch of producers,
Yeah.
I'm gonna be Mr. Salesman.
Yep.
So I don't know if that's a ambiguous way of answering your question, but that would be my advice.
Yep.
Just be real.
Yep.
Just be genuine about it. Do it because you love it.
Yep.
Don't be one of those actors also that, "Oh, I hate everything that I do." Why the fuck are you doing it? Do what you love.
Yeah.
Create what you want to see on the screen.
Any coaches or like training or like, I guess like websites or anything you were like, "Oh my God, why, how am I just," because there's a few things like, you don't find out until later and you're like, what? Why didn't anyone tell me about this?
Yeah. Look, in terms of like looking back on the education that I had, I feel like TAFTA was really great in never ripping you apart.
Yeah.
There was only really that one day, sorry, John, where you just dropped the bundle on the duet scene or whatever it was. What was it? It was a duets. Is that what the play was called? The German thing?
I know the
Where he
exact one.
really fucking just had enough.
Had a real rough train ride home that night. I was like questioning everything. Yeah.
So one thing that I often do muse over that I, not a regret, but I wish that I'd had the composure, like a good comeback that you find 2 hours later and you wish that you'd slayed that person with the comeback, is, I don't know if you remember, but the day that Paul Parker told me how terrible I was in front of the class. And I just absorbed it all and sat there in silence for the next 4 hours.
Yep.
I wish that I had sat there and just looked at him and gone, "Who the fuck do you think you are? How dare you speak to me like that, you piece of shit? I put my fucking heart and soul into this," and walked out of the fucking room and then walked back in and went, "Ta-da," as a total fake.
Yeah.
And and he would have been like, like if I had delivered it genuinely as a joke.
I had a similar thing with a teacher once, and I did say something, and I was, I did, maybe, I don't know whether I handled it as well as I think I did in my head, but at the same time I said, it was about, my American dialect at the time, because, accent for a bloke like me was really hard to perfect. Like,
right.
My God, the amount of training I've done on the accent is insane to get it to a passable level, and I'm confident with it now, but I was still, and this one teacher just kept going at me like, really good, but that accent, I can't even focus. And I was just like, and it was like before I even started, and I just said, and I said to her after the class, I walked out of the class, and I came back in, and I said, "It's not your job. I've got a dialect coach. That's not your job.
Right.
Your job is to teach me as an actor, and if we can't get past that, then that's fine. You're not my acting coach. I don't need you. There's plenty of other people out there that will help me."
Yeah, they've got the wrong objective, and that there's still that lingering loss and regret about
Well,
their own
if-
existence. And
Yeah, their job is to help. Their
Yeah.
job is to inspire. If they can't, and that's up to them. If they can't, and in fairness, you're not going to be able to help everyone that you come across. And that's a hard thing to know as like a teacher, as an educator, or anything like that. But don't fucking beat them down for it.
Yeah,
Because
yeah,
you
yeah.
don't know how to do your job correctly. Go, maybe I'm not the teacher for you. This is something you can work on. I'm not really sure how to fix it. Maybe seek that. Or I could be wrong. At the end of the day, this is it's art, right?
Objective.
It's so objective. What you think is great, I may think is terrible, and vice versa. And look, in fairness, there is bad acting. There is unconnected, disconnected, disgenuine. There's all this sort of
lazy,
stuff. Yeah, right?
unprepared.
Not knowing your lines. There's nerves. There's this. There's all that stuff that comes into it where, yes, everyone can sort of go, they need work. But at the end of the day, you've just got to keep going and don't take... Because, again, the teacher I'm talking about, like... very well known, brilliant acting coach, and has done and is a really, really good coach. I've seen him work with a bunch of students and do really, really, really great stuff and get them from one point to another. But just wasn't right for me, and that's I think it's such like a thing in the entire industry. It's the same thing. Some auditions come in and you go, this dialogue's incredible. I'm great. I'm brilliant. I can learn these lines in like an hour. And others where you're smashing your head against a brick wall 8 hours later.
Just won't stick. Yeah.
Yeah, and you get better at the bad stuff and you get closer, quicker at the good stuff and whatnot. But, I just think as a young actor, you're so vulnerable to it, just thinking anything a teacher says to you is true.
Well, that's what's great about a school like TAFTA where you've got 20 different teachers.
Definitely.
You know that you're only going to have them for another week or whatever, or maybe 2 more weeks.
Yeah.
And if you're having a bit of a fucking,
I
we don't gel so well.
I can't recommend, like...
I always recommend TAFTA.
TAFTA is, like, brilliant. And, like, for the foundation of what I learnt there, like, I still use some stuff that we learnt there from
100%.
Mick Preston and John Preston and...
Yeah, and David Cameron. I've seen him
he's
a
brilliant.
lot. Yeah,
He's
I've
so
seen him
good.
a lot as a private coach.
Colin Budds is phenomenal.
Colin's great.
I to be honest, I use a lot of what I learnt as an actor in his classes as director as well.
Yeah.
That
I would imagine you would. Yeah. And then the best directors, so they say, I can't honestly comment at this juncture, but actors, directors, directors who have had some time as an actor, instead of that director that sits behind the camera and you never speak to and sends someone to run over
and they're dying, like not well,
They're
literally dying.
Yeah,
but
we're all dying.
But they're dying out, is what I meant to say. Like that old school Hollywood way. It doesn't really exist anymore. There's a few still there that where it's a dictatorship.
Yeah,
but it is and you're gonna get those. But like, it just do your job, head down, ass up, get the job done. Go. I don't know. There's a power in, going. I kind of ask myself at the end of every job, I'm like, would I work with that person again? Did I enjoy working with them? And that's what I love about being a filmmaker, is I'm kind of like, it's like, I guess it's like a fantasy football team. I'm kind of like...
You get to pick.
Well, I love, again, we're talking about Adam Sandler. I love Adam Sandler. I love how the community
I'm getting
he
a strong theme about you and Adam.
Yeah, but the community he built. Same as Seth Rogen and James Franco and all those guys. They work together again. They build this community. And I've found so much family through acting, through entertaining, and I call them family because there's such a deep understanding. And living away from home and all that sort of stuff. You find these people and you connect on a level, and I'm not talking, you're not talking about like, the only thing I could compare it to is when you find, sexual attraction, but it's that complete different, it's a different type of energy. And I like that energy, you just, I don't know, you can't compare that type of connection that you get with other filmmakers or other actors or collaboratives. And look, you get it from other people. I've got it with some friends and stuff like that. But that energy. I don't know.
There's
I love
an
that.
understanding. There's an intrinsic understanding of what you've been through, what you're going through, what you're hoping for.
Yeah.
All this. That's what and that's where it is. Even if you don't like the genre of films that person makes, you still are incredibly connected. Listen, mate, I think we'll have to wrap it up there.
That's fair. That's fair.
I really appreciate you coming down, man. I really, really do. Thanks for taking the time.
Yeah, thank you. There was a car accident on the way here, so I was...
So we ended up just landing at the original planned time anyways.
Yeah, that's right. No, thank you so much for having me. And again, congratulations on the podcast.
Thanks,
As
buddy.
you said, not many make it past 7. You're on 12 now, which used to be my old football number, so lucky 12. No, but it's great. I love what you're doing. I love what you're creating. You're inspiring, because I never knew that we could create our own content as actors, but you need to.
You do.
And you learn so much through acting about film in as a whole that you can apply when you start doing it. But yeah, as I said, with podcasts, you build community and you build that sort of stuff. So hopefully us rambling for the last, hour and a half has helped at least one person. Just one person, if someone listens.
You pump this out to your community and we'll do another one.
Yeah,
we'll
for
do
sure.
another one. A year's time, we'll see where it's at.
Yeah, no, congratulations. And
Thanks, buddy.